Hello and welcome into our first ever episode of UFL Tonight. I am your host, James Baker. Now, with this show, we hope to bring you some of the top news and content from across the UFL. But in case you haven't noticed yet, this year's UFL looks unlike anything we've ever seen before. So in case you're a first-time fan, you're just checking back in after the NFL season, make sure you strap in because it is time for a lightning round recap of this past UFL offseason. Starting off with the top story of the offseason was the new ownership. Now, Redbird Capital, Fox Sports, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and everybody else are still on board, but leading the ownership group is billionaire businessman Mike Rapoli. Now, Rapoli founded the company which created Smart Water and Vitamin Water, which he then sold to Coca-Cola for over $4 billion. He then partnered with Kobe Bryant to develop body armor, and then turned around and sold it to Coca-Cola for over $5 billion. So if there's one thing Rapoli knows how to do, it's make money, but he's also a huge sports fan. He's the main NIL contributor for the St. John's basketball team, which are one of the top schools in the nation. He's also huge into horse racing as the owner of Rapoli's stable, and he's even been nicknamed the commissioner of horse racing due to his public works and outcry against the Jockey Club. Being a big sports fan, he's been transparent in responding to the UFL community on X, giving updates all offseason. His vision for the UFL to make money has three main core values: an elevated fan experience, ties to the local community, and internal efficiency. The biggest key to a good fan experience starts at the stadium. Mike Rapoli noted that in 2025, when you watch the UFL, you notice that the football product is absolutely fantastic, but then you look at the crowds and it looks like a COVID game. Even in situations where the Michigan Panthers were able to pull in 16,000 people, it looked like nobody was there because they're playing in Ford Field, which typically seats 60,000. Meanwhile, many cities have more appropriately sized soccer stadiums, similar to how the DC Defenders have used Audi Field, where 16,000 would look like a great crowd, so that's been a key priority for the league when securing venues. Sadly, this means San Antonio, Memphis, nor Michigan had a suitable stadium, so the Brahmas, Showboats, and Panthers have been placed on an indefinite hiatus, leading the way for three new teams, two of which are completely brand new spring football markets. The returning teams in the UFL are the St. Louis Battlehawks, DC Defenders, and the Birmingham Stallions, who are all back in their same stadiums. Then you have the Arlington Renegades, who have rebranded back to the Dallas Renegades following a move to Toyota Stadium in Frisco, home of FC Dallas. And then the other Texas team also had a throwback rebrand, as the Houston Roughnecks have changed back into the Houston Gamblers with new updated branding, and they'll also now be playing at Shell Energy Stadium, home of the Houston Dynamo. Now with the brand new teams, returning to spring football is Orlando with the Orlando Storm. The key thing in Orlando this time is, unlike in 2023 when the Guardians played at the 60,000 Camping World Stadium, the Storm will be playing at the more appropriately sized and modern Inter & Co Stadium, home of the Orlando City FC. We'll talk more on the Storm later, but owner Mike Rapoli has already claimed them as his own team and says he'll be at every single home game this year, so expect those crowds to be electric. Next is another team you can clearly tell Mike Rapoli had a hand in designing, is the Louisville Kings, with their branding giving nods to the Kentucky Derby and horse racing. Louisville has been an instant success with the UFL. They're playing in the 15,000 capacity Lynn Family Stadium, and already tickets are nearly sold out for their opener after a packed fan rally at the Churchill Downs. And the final team has also seen instant success, being the first pro football team in one of America's biggest football markets. The Columbus Aviators and the good old OHIO are playing at the historic Crew Stadium that seats about 20,000, and just wait until you see their uniforms later in the show. Their helmets are some of the best I have ever seen. So that's all the teams and their stadiums. You can clearly see this mission of trying to get fans closer to the action and get these packed crowds. But fans want to root for somebody that they know. So when it came time to choose who would lead these teams, Mike Rapoli delivered. Starting up in Birmingham, legendary head coach Skip Holtz stepped down, leading way for A.J. McCarron, former Battlehawks quarterback and three-time national champion at Alabama, to get his first ever coaching opportunity. Columbus has another college football legend, with former Ohio State and Carolina Panthers wide receiver Ted Ginn Jr. leading the Aviators. The Kings have former Louisville quarterback Chris Redman at the helm, who was born and raised in the area and has already assembled a group of corporate partners to help grow the team. The DC Defenders made sure to retain 2025 UFL champion and coach of the year Shannon Harris after his unbelievable interim season. In Dallas, Bob Stoops retired, and Rose Bowl champion Rick Neuheisel wanted a fun retirement job he could do. So welcome back, in a sense, Bob Stoops 2.0. But even with no deep ties to Dallas, slick Rick Neuheisel has been a huge advocate for the league on his daily Sirius XM radio show and working around the clock to promote the Renegades. The Gamblers are completely time traveling, it seems, as they bring back Kevin Sumlin, who coached the team in 2022 and has also had success at Houston and then Texas A&M, where he coached Heisman winner Johnny Manziel. Now, the final couple of coaching spots are a little unique. You see, in 2023, Ricky Proehl, St. Louis Rams legend, was the wide receivers coach for the St. Louis Battlehawks underneath head coach Anthony Becht. When the UFL got an Orlando team, which happens to be where Anthony Becht lives, Becht was like, hey man, if we're going to be redrafting the teams pretty much, can I just move to Orlando? And now you have Anthony Becht as the head coach of the Orlando Storm and Ricky Proehl back, but this time as the head coach of the St. Louis Battlehawks. And if you're saying, wait, we're redrafting the rosters, haven't we had a couple drafts already? Yes, the UFL had another dispersal draft in 2026, but they've done it in a way that we've never seen. In order to make league operations run more smoothly, Mike Rapoli eliminated the individual team GM positions, and instead the league's centralized scouting office provides coaches with potential players for them to select, having the head coach fill both the coach and GM roles, but standardizing the scouting process league-wide. The entire allocation process consisted of 5 parts. First, there was a quarterback selection, where coaches submitted a list of requested QBs. Second was a brand new regional allocation draft, where teams were able to select 3 players from a short list of colleges and universities near them. Third was a crucial element that many UFL fans were excited to see included, and it was after that regional allocation portion, teams were able to submit a list of 12 players to protect in order to keep these core rosters together. You still have Luis Perez with the Renegades, Jordan Teamu with the Defenders, Hakeem Butler with the St. Louis Battlehawks. You get the idea. For the new teams, the Orlando Storm have the San Antonio Brahmas roster, the Columbus Aviators have the Michigan Panthers, and the Louisville Kings have the rights to all Memphis Showboats. Fourth was the main 2026 UFL draft, where teams could select all remaining players who participated in the 2025 UFL season. They broke it up into 6 positional groups with a randomized snake order for each group. And finally, there was a free agent draft to cap things off, where teams could draft new players and anyone who participated in a UFL showcase this past offseason. In the end, all teams were able to select at least 60 players. We will be covering all 8 rosters over the next couple weeks, so make sure to follow along on our socials at UFL Tonight and here on YouTube at PFNewsroom. Now, on the timeline, we've hit the month of February, which was a busy one for the UFL. The league held 8 successful fan rallies in every single UFL market. They have marketing teams on the ground, all leading up to a highly anticipated uniform launch. Now, if you haven't noticed, the entire league got a complete rebrand. My polo is already outdated, but I'll wait for the UFL shop. That's a different story for a different day. If you want to check that out, recommend you check out my buddy John's experience at John Lewis Sports. Under Armour is officially out, and New Era, who designed the CFL's jerseys, are in as a jersey manufacturer, and the athletic brand Noble, owned by no other than Mike Rapoli and partnered with Tom Brady, is an official sideline apparel provider along with Adidas. Every team has a color rush uniform with their team name on their home primary jerseys and the city name on their away jerseys. They also feature patches from New Era and Noble, as well as additional community sponsor patches. Some unique design elements include Louisville shoulder patterns looking like a race jockey, the Battlehawks shoulders looking like the Gateway Arch, and Houston has these super sleek black jerseys with hidden gambling elements all over. Oh, and look at these absolutely gorgeous Columbus Aviators helmets. In contrast, the Birmingham Stallions fan base was not too happy about their main uniform color switch from red to gold. This led UFL owner Mike Rapoli to respond, claiming Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin designed the uniforms and that Stallions fans are harder to please than his family. That is awesome. And what's also awesome is a lot of the raw and unfiltered content we're getting this UFL offseason. Take a look at this video from a coach's dinner that they held in Orlando with UFL co-owner Mike Rapoli.
This is awesome, by the way. Just hearing some of these fucking stories are just unbelievable. I mean, this is what this league's going to be about. Whether it's teams, whether it's players, whether it's coaches, whether it's me, we're going to do fucking things differently. We're going to play fast, score points, have fun. Rules are going to be pretty fun. I don't know if you know, Cat has 9 lives. This league has 10.
Like what Mike said, these new rules are built for fun, exciting, high-scoring games. Here's UFL VP of Officiating Dean Blandino with more.
I'm Dean Blandino, Vice President of Officiating for the United Football League. You know me as the guy who enforces and explains the rules. But today I want to talk about how we're rewriting them. The UFL is a testing lab.
Wait, pause. I gotta give a shout out to my boy Holt for making the promo clip. Let's go, brother.
Future of football. We develop the players, we push the rules forward, and when something works here, the rest of the sport takes notice. And today, I'm here to tell you about the biggest rule change in football, and it starts with, wait for it, the kicker. So, starting this season, a field goal isn't always worth 3. You got the leg to hit from 60 plus, forget about 3 points, that's for chip shots. You get 4 points.
Props to the kickers and the specialists in this league.
Oh, wait, I almost forgot. One more thing. We're banning the tush push. I don't have to explain why. You've seen it. I've seen it. We've all seen it. You won't see it in the UFL in 2026. It's gone. Let's move on.
All right, so leading off the 2026 rule changes are the 4-point 60-yard field goal and the banning of the tush push. It is worth noting, though, that neither a tush push or 60-yard field goal were even attempted last season, but rule changes we will notice for sure are only 1 foot is required to be in bounds for a catch. Now, once you pass the 50-yard line on offense, you are no longer allowed to punt. This is in effect even if you were to move backwards, either due to a penalty or a bad play. Other things returning is the kicked PAT for 1, with the 2-point attempt being a 2-yard play and a 3-point attempt being an 8-yard play. And we're also seeing the return of the coin toss, which should be a fun game day element that many didn't realize we lost. Previously, it was the home team that was able to declare without a coin toss. And that, my friends, takes us pretty much to training camp, so stick around after the break for our community content block, starting off with Hot Topic on UFL Tonight.
I have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now there's Skyrizi.
We don't have a corporate partner, guys. That doesn't make any sense. But what also doesn't make sense are just Cowboys fans. You know, they claim that they want a football team without Jerry Jones and his overpriced everything. And we give them a football team where you can get season tickets for less than the cost of parking at a Cowboys game. They still don't show up. We win a championship this century, unlike the Cowboys. They still don't show up. And I guess I just don't get it. You know, if you don't like good championship football being played in Dallas with cheap season tickets, cheap drinks, cheap parking, cheap everything, you get to be close to the atmosphere. March 28th, 3 p.m. against the Houston Gamblers at Toyota Stadium. Make sure to cheer on your Dallas Renegades. TheUFL.com/tickets, everybody.
Who said I can't wear my Converse with my dress? Well, baby, that's just me.
All right, welcome back into UFL Hot Topic, where you give us your hot takes and we react. This week, we got over 24 entries for our first ever Hot Topic, so thank you to everybody out there. Let's go over some of the best ones. First off, we have James Larson, who says UFL Tonight will be the greatest show in UFL history. Now, come on, James. This is a hot topic, not cold hard facts. That's going to be 100% true, without a doubt. I got you. Now, next, Meerkat says Luis Perez does not deserve the title of Spring King and that Jordan Teyamu has better stats and better accolades. Now, look, I'm a huge fan of Perez. As you can tell, I'm a big Renegades guy. And we talked to Jordan a couple weeks ago on Around the UFL. Both of these guys, I like to say, are on my Mount Rushmore of spring football. But a big thing about nicknames is the marketing. And if you want to be known as a nickname, you got to go out and coin the phrase. A great way to do that is by writing a damn book naming yourself the Spring King, okay? Right here, 300 pages of proof why Luis Perez is the King of Spring. If one thing we can agree on is King of Spring is way better than the Spring King. I hope I have everybody's agreement there. But no, at the end of the day, Perez played in the AAF. He won the championship over Teamu, and he coined the name first. So he's not giving up that crown as long as he's still playing. He's playing at a high level. I love what Teamu's doing. He's going to have a great year this year, but he is not the king of spring. It is Luis Perez. Yeah, first, you're last. Well, those are some of the community's hot takes, but let's see what the general public agrees on in our weekly survey says. Every week, make sure to follow along on X at UFL Tonight, as we'll post 3 weekly polls for you to participate in. The first poll for next week's show will be posted directly after this episode, so make sure you take a look. Looking at poll 1 of UFL Tonight history, will a new or returning quarterback lead the UFL in passing yards this season? Now, 58% of you, looks like we had a lot of Teamu and Perez fans, because 58% are saying that it's going to be a returning quarterback. But hey, that 42% is not a small number. I saw a lot of people had high praise for Jason Bean, a lot of high praise for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and then there are a few people who are even calling for some newcomers like Austin Reed to get some opportunities in an offense like where Rick Neuheisel said he's going to be playing every single player. Moving on to poll 2, game changer or gimmick. Will the 4-point field goal lead to higher scoring games or have a minimal impact this season? Now, I want to speak up now. I misspoke earlier. There actually was one attempt at a 63-yard field goal by Harrison Mevis last year, although he missed. Now, that was the only attempt and there were no makes, but it looks like a lot of people are expecting at least a couple of attempts this season, with 48% voting that we'll see a couple. And then 41% of you think that it's going to be a real thing. Saying that we're going to get quite a few attempts of a 60-plus yard field goal, with then 11% of you being Debbie Downers. Come on, guys. We want to see some 4-point field goals. They're all saying that we are not going to have a single 60-plus field goal even attempted in 2026. I personally think we may have 4 to 5, which is going to be a little bit of a ramp up. I think we're going to have maybe 2 or 3 that hit. That first one, though, is going to be really cool. First ever 4-point field goal that I've ever seen. I don't know about you. And our final poll of the week, man, Birmingham fans did not like the jerseys when they first dropped, but it's been a couple weeks. Have the Birmingham Stallions 2026 jerseys grown on you? And it looks like no. 44% of you said nope, still hate them, not a fan. But 41%, at least we have some opinions that have been swayed, which say, yes, the jerseys have grown on me. I've had a lot of people say, you know, I absolutely love the helmet. Jerseys, just not too big of a fan. Me personally, I like the jerseys. You know, it's an all gold Color Rush uniform. We were all asking for that shit in 2016. But I think it should have been a secondary jersey and still have a red primary. So I understand a little bit of the frustration there. But overall, like, come on, guys. And I see 16% of y'all are just like me. I've always liked the jerseys. Love to see it. So that is it for our weekly survey says. Like I said, make sure to follow along on our social media channels at UFL Tonight. And we are moving on to our community spotlight. Here at UFL Tonight, we love hearing from everybody, but each week we want to highlight a select few hand-picked pieces of content in the UFL community. We want to see your creativity here on our weekly community spotlight. And we have to start things off with probably the coolest kid in the whole world. Cohen already has tickets to the Battlehawks season opener. You need to get on his level because he already has some handmade merch. If you don't remember, he was a huge Michigan Panthers fan. Well, he's been a huge UFL fan for a considerable amount of his life. And both him and his mom actually come from Iowa to make it to these games. So love the dedication. Make sure to show them some love and be alongside them when the Battlehawks take on the Defenders on March 28th. Up next, we have State of the Stallions with a Facebook Marketplace find that will make any UFL fan jealous. It's an official 2025 UFL Birmingham Stallions full-sized helmet. He asked the guy and he knew absolutely nothing about it and just said it was left in a storage unit. Sometimes with Facebook Marketplace, it's best not to ask too many questions, but one thing we do know based on leaked photos is the helmet is either quite small or Luke Miller's head is quite big. Oh, man, he's going to hate me for that one. But it is March, and we feel you, Hamler season. We absolutely love the Giannis Antetokounmpo video. Can't wait to watch KJ take the field in a few weeks. We also want to take the time to shout out an amazing individual creator this week, and I wanted to extend that shout out to Zom Fox. This dude has been absolutely cranking out videos like you wouldn't believe, and I got the chance to sit down with him to talk about his spring football fandom.
And so when I heard the UFL was coming back, I just was like, okay, this is going to be fun. Decided to make a YouTube channel for it, and been going now about like 5 years strong with this.
I kind of want to leave this open-ended to you to share with anybody listening. What's kind of your elevator pitch for your channel? What should people expect out of your content, and why should everybody follow along?
Well, the main thing is it's one of those channels that, I speak my mind about the league, the teams, and all that. I'm not somebody that will say, oh, my number 8 team just isn't as good as number 1. I'll come out and say, I think this team is bad or this quarterback is playing bad. I don't like to sort of under-deliver or over-deliver what I think about players, teams, management, and all that. I give credit where it's due. If somebody I hate makes a good point, I will reluctantly give them credit. Same if it's somebody I like that says something I dislike or something. And so that's a big part of it. We do live streams twice a week during the season, doing live play-by-plays, which are always fun, of course. And one of the most iconic moments when Curtis Johnson came out at halftime and said that he believes we have the best offense in the league when they had yet to ever score more than 20 points in a game. That was a pretty iconic moment for the chat and everybody who was around for that. If you know, you know. And it's just a fun place to be around.
You said you speak your mind, and this will be airing 2 segments after our hot topic of the week. So I'm gonna put you on the spot. If you have everybody listening into you right now, what is your UFL hot take that you would like to broadcast to the world?
I would say that the Stallions have the worst coaching staff by a decent margin, despite the fact that I think they have a better head coach than the Kings. And to make it a double hot take, I think both horse teams have bad coaching staffs relative to the rest of the league.
Stallions fans aren't going to want to hear that, but if the rest of you want to hear more, you can catch our full interview being posted tomorrow at noon Eastern on our social media channels at UFL Tonight. Now, during the regular season, we'll have our Friday Top 5 showing you the top 5 plays of the previous week, but since this is a recap episode, let's take a look at the top plays of the 2025 UFL season on the first ever Friday Top 5. Starting off with number 5, we have Birmingham Stallions versus the St. Louis Battlehawks. Jamar Smith stand and deliver a strike to Deion Kane for the touchdown. Battlehawks would go on to win in the Battle Dome. Absolutely love the celebration there from Jamar too. What an absolute dog. All right, number 4, we have Battlehawks versus the Roughnecks Week 1. Jarvian Howard, unstoppable. He's just throwing grown men to the ground. Nobody could take him down. The 20-yard line, 10-yard line, touchdown. The Battlehawks went up at that moment 30-0 and did not let off the gas as they beat the brakes off the Roughnecks in Week 1. Going from Week 1 to the UFL Championship, we have the Michigan Panthers. Bryce Perkins on the run finds a wide open Malik Turner, who is being chased down by at least 5, maybe 6, 7 DC defenders, but makes a good move, cutting back at the 15-yard line and gets in for the touchdown. However, it would be too little too late. We know the DC defenders would go on to take the UFL Championship. Coming in at number 2, we have the Battlehawks versus the Renegades. Max Duggan pass is tipped, intercepted by Jene Harris. He could take it all the way back home with 30 seconds left in the game. He ends up running it back, jumping over his own guy, and jogging into the end zone for 6 to secure the dub. And oh my gosh, this team was absolutely feeling it. Look at the dance moves. These are the dance moves you can pull off when you're on the Friday Top 5. And the number 1 play of the 2025 season, Michigan Panthers' Bryce Perkins evades the DC rush, throws a man down, and look at the spin! Touchdown! Panthers, wow. Bryce Perkins was an absolute human joystick last season. Wish we could see him this year, but we wish him the best of luck in Canada. What an absolute athlete. Back to 2026, and the UFL is wrapping up week 2 of training camp at HQ in Arlington, Texas. Scrimmages were held this past Tuesday, and we're going to see even more tomorrow, with Columbus going up against Louisville, DC going up against Birmingham, Orlando, and Dallas, and then we have the Battlehawks going up against the Houston Gamblers. The league held their media days the past couple days at the Arlington Esports facility. This is where the Fox Sports content team and the UFL's content team gets to shoot all sorts of fun footage and game day packages for you to enjoy. And we also had a major signing this past Monday as former Jacksonville Jaguars running back James Robinson announced that he is signing with the Louisville Kings. Now, Robinson in 2020 put up over 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns in just 14 games and has been trying to reach that level ever since tearing his Achilles back in 2021. Well, as final rosters begin to take shape, we have more sportsbooks starting to put the UFL up and opening up some lines. So let's start a weekly segment I have named Baker's Best Bets. Taking a look at the 2026 UFL Championship odds presented by DraftKings, we have the Birmingham Stallions leading the pack at plus 340, the DC Defenders in second at 370, the Renegades in third at 475, the Storm right in the middle of the pack at plus 550, Battlehawks right behind them at 650, Aviators at 800, Kings at 1,200, and then the long shot are the Houston Gamblers at plus 1,400. Now, my top 3 picks in order start with the Orlando Storm and Anthony Beck. The guy just has the edge and experience over all these guys, and he was pretty much being an active GM before the league adopted its new personnel model. Plus, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a guy I think we quickly see sign an NFL contract right after the season ends. Next up is going to be the St. Louis Battlehawks at plus 650. Look, it's no secret the league has wanted St. Louis in the championship now for pretty much every year spring football's been around, and it just hasn't happened. But maybe Ricky Prohl is the guy to get it done. He has experience with the team, he's inheriting a good group of guys, and he has the best home field advantage in the league, so it's always hard to bet against the Battlehawks on paper. But that's the thing, these are preseason rankings, this is all paper, this is where the Battlehawks thrive, and we know the playoffs is not where they thrive. But plus 650, worth a shot. Moving on, finally, my dark horse candidate at plus 1,200 are going to be the Louisville Kings. Look, brand new head coach Chris Redmond brings a lot of question marks. I understand the concerns around the Kings, but Jason Bean is an athlete. And spring football is where mobile athletic quarterbacks can thrive. And I think Bean can be a true MVP candidate. And once again, I'm saying this before I even see him take the field, but I wouldn't bet against him just yet. We'll take a look at week 1 bets when it gets closer to time because, right now we're still in training camp. We haven't even seen half of these scrimmages, and we don't know what final rosters are going to look like. But hey, when all these bets cash, make sure you grab me so we can celebrate. And you can't celebrate without stopping by UFL Tonight's Celebration Station, where we celebrate birthdays and achievements all across the league. Because hey, we want this to be a fun, lighthearted show, so let's celebrate. Our birthdays this past week, we got Kerry Vincent Jr. with the Gamblers, celebrated his birthday on February 28th. Dominic Davis with the Renegades on the 28th. And then getting into March, we had Orlando Storm's Darian Butler on March 1st. Kavion Patton with the Aviators on March 2nd. The new quarterback with the Battlehawks, Harrison Frost, on March 4th. And then we got a pair of Renegades, Brandon Sebastian and Abdul 300-plus Beecham on March 5th. And happy birthday to anybody watching who had a birthday this past week. Now listen, I can continue going on and on, yapping and yapping, but this episode's already been long enough with me running through the entire UFL offseason. I know a lot of you guys are hardcore spring football fans. You likely knew everything I threw at you today, and I absolutely love it. Make sure to tune in for next week's episode and episodes past that, because we're going to start talking about some more current information and kind of some more future news. This episode was mainly more of a 2025 recap and intended for a brand new person walking in off the street getting used to the UFL. Anyways, I am extremely grateful for everybody who stopped by for our first episode. This has taken a lot of effort to get out there and make. So please like, share, subscribe. Would love to hear your thoughts, your critiques. This is my first time doing this. First time in 5-6 years that I've anchored a show. So I know I'm a little bit rusty, but we're gonna get through this. And so looking forward to a great 2026 UFL season. UFL Tonight, Episode 1. We're done.